Hello, everybody. It's Friday, and that means it's time for another topic of the week. Back at home, ready to go. So, first off, normal preamble. We've got some great responses to last week's videos, and actually, this week is going to kind of continue on. But first, let me talk about last week's. I thought there were really, it seemed like most people were pretty positive about the new divisions. That is to say, most people enjoyed the freedom. Talked about it a little on Warhammer Weekly as well with David from Garage Hammer, and on the whole, I think we all agree it opens up a lot of good possibilities. Seems pretty exciting, really, to be able to combine. I know I'm currently scheming out a bunch of different fun armies, really not at all thinking about rules. I'm just thinking like, what models have I wanted to put together that I think would look really neat, or would make a cool army that I couldn't do before. So there's a lot of good responses. Victor did a nice response where he was like painting while he was talking. It's his new paint and chat. That's a great combination. I like that. That's a good way to multitask there, Victor. So I thought that was really nice. I also agreed with basically a lot of what Hooves of Doom has said. That's kind of how he's always thought about his armies, anyways. Yeah, they were in the larger army structure, but he always tended to think about them in the subgroupings. And when I thought about it, yeah, it's pretty true, right? Like, I even though they were all under this one banner, I did often think about them in the subgroups. And Victor pointed out like the 6th edition Skaven book, which was always like the 6th edition books had like the little groupings in it, like the artillery train of Nolan in the back of the Empire, and the clan specific armies in the back of the Skaven book. And I loved those. I always thought those were fantastic. So seeing those sorts of little mini divides and micro divides come back and how you can think about your army is great. Just this time you don't have to only do that. So it's kind of the best of both worlds. So that's, as always, that video is linked down below, so you can go back, and all of last week's responses are linked there as well. But let's talk about this week's topic. And so this week's topic brings us to an interesting point in the evolution of Age of Sigmar. And that is, we have it confirmed because you can go on the New Zealand site, and you can see that, in fact, the Tomb Kings are all being retired. That's right, the Tomb Kings officially... their figure line is being retired, moved to the sort of last chance or whatever. They all have a funny little, I guess it's like an hourglass clock next to them or something. I don't know. It's got skulls in it, of course. It's a skull glass hourglass. But so that's happening, and that made me think about, I think, a really interesting series of topics, and it's going to be, we're going to start specifically at Tomb Kings. What do you think about the Tomb Kings line being retired? Do you care or not? Obviously, they'll still stay valid in Age of Sigmar. You can play them forever because those or at least as long as Age of Sigmar is around, because the War Scrolls are always going to be around. It's not like they're retiring the War Scrolls. They're just not making the models anymore. So it's not like something older that got lost, like, say, Dogs of War, where they didn't make the transition into the next edition, and they never got rules either. So there's nothing you can do with them. So what do you think about model lines being retired? Do you have concerns about the Tomb Kings going? Do you think that it's obviously some of these need to go. I am sad to see some of my favorite, which is the TK, go away. But I am lucky enough to have a nice big army of those that I love. So if you need more, now's the time, because very quickly those prices are gonna probably spike. So, what do you think about them going away? But here's the more interesting thing. Do you think they'll come back? They were led by a guy named Cetra the Imperishable, who last we saw marched off into the heart of chaos. If anybody can come back and has proven that he is truly the Imperishable, it's Cetra. And we mentioned this on the show on Wednesday, of where would they go? We've got the Grand Alliance death. Could the Tomb Kings end up in Order or Destruction? I think they could end up in either. The reality is, even in the old edition, they were neutral. They were one of the neutral factions. So could they come back as an interesting spoiler? Is that the reason they're a challenge? Because they didn't really have a side. They were their own thing. Cetra kneels before no one. I think for me, I would love to see them come back, maybe with some new model kits under Cetra as a force of order, but one not bowing to Sigmar. To have some internal division and politic and maybe even a little strife in the Order army, in the same way that you've got a lot of division and strife and fighting in the Chaos. So I think that could be pretty cool. I'm not saying I think that'll happen soon. I think it could happen, but I think it's probably a ways away if it ever does. So, there you go. That's the topic. TK going away. What do you think about that? Do you think they could ever come back? And bonus, who's the next on the block? So it's obvious that some are going to be retiring. Who's the next to go? I know what my vote is, but I want to see what you think. As always, comment down below or make a response video. All of those responses will be linked down below this video. And we'll see you next time.